What's up, friends? Thanks, as always, for joining us on this fine program. Hope you're enjoying the March Madness as much as we are. Earlier this beautiful month of March, we did have one of the Cinderella stories of the tournament. Our good friend Ansley Almanor of FDU joined this program. But today, we turn our attention to our guy, DJ Irving, an assistant coach on Jim Larrañaga's Miami side that's getting ready for its Final Four matchup. First and foremost, Coach, thank you so much for doing this. I know you're swamped watching film right now. How are you, man?
I'm doing well, man. I can't complain at all. We a couple days away from the Final Four. It's a blessing. It's definitely a blessing for me, for the kids, for our athletes, for the rest of the coaches, for the university. So it's just a blessing trying to soak it all in, stay present, and just lock in for this last week of the season.
Yeah, and I know Jason's got a bunch of questions, but I want to start with one right now because we're in the midst of kind of that awkward layoff in between the Elite Eight and the Final Four, where obviously you get some much needed downtime. Guys get their legs back underneath them. But what are you doing right now to keep these guys focused? Because with 6 or 7 days in between, that's a lot of time for young kids to kind of let their mind wander. How are you keeping these guys focused?
We got a veteran group, a mature group, so they kind of do that themselves. But it sounds like we got a bunch of downtime, but it doesn't feel like it because we got a 1 p.m. flight tomorrow, right after practice. We got a 10 a.m. practice, 1 p.m. flight. So we're right back on the road. We got a lot of stuff to do when we get there. So it's some downtime before game time, but we still kind of running around, kind of trying to get things together.
Mm-hmm. I like that. The mature group. Who's the leader of the pack right now?
We got a couple different type of leaders. Jordan Miller, obviously he's the guy that he's a senior, was a big part of our Elite Eight team last year. He does a good job leading the group, talking to him. Norchad Omier, who just came in, transferred from Arkansas State. He probably has the loudest voice, but his is a little shaky because his accent. So it's a little different, but he's the loudest guy out there. Isaiah Wong kind of leads by example. He's always in the gym, probably one of the hardest workers on the team. So we got leadership by committee.
Yeah, got it. Coach, you let me ask one real quick, Jay, and then I'll get back to you. You said something though about last year's team. One of my favorite quotes from The Last Dance from Phil Jackson was about how, I think he said, this may not be the exact quote, but it was along the lines of, you're only successful until you can do it again, referring to, well, we won a title, now let's win it again. You guys broke program ground last year by making it to the first Elite Eight ever in Miami history. What's been the biggest thing to carry that success over to this year? Because making an Elite Eight is hard. Making another one and then going even further is even harder.
I think it's a couple different things. Like I said, the leadership that we have, the group that we have, you got Zay Wong, who was on that team, big part of it, ACC Player of the Year. Jordan Miller, who was on that team, was a huge part of last year's team. We brought in Norchad and Nigel, but you got guys like Wooga Poplar, Bensley Joseph, Anthony Walker, who was also big parts of that last year's team, who have bigger roles this year. So it's a mix between that and then our leader, man, Coach L, Jim Larrañaga. He is a Hall of Fame coach, a living legend. He kind of keeps these guys together. He has one of the early quotes, because he does a quote before every practice. The very first practice of this season, his quote was, "Begin with the end in mind," which means have a vision of where we want to be at the end of the season and kind of take care of business every day to lead up to that point. So it's a couple different things that goes along with that.
I like that. I got a few questions, but first I want to say you touched on Jim Larrañaga, right? And keeping those guys focused. I saw him kiss Nigel Pack on the head the other day in an interview, right? And I couldn't just help to feel like he really, really banged with these kids.
Nah, he does. He does. It's genuine too, man. He treats these kids like he's their own. You know what I mean? He loves them up, sending them highlight tapes throughout the season to build their confidence up. That's kind of the secret to his success. He builds guys up. He allows them to be themselves, but also building them up at the same time. So, I mean, everything you see is genuine. He did it last year to Cam McGusty when he was doing the interview, kissed him right on the forehead. So he means that stuff. His family is our family. His wife, Liz Larrañaga, is the mother of the group. She's part of our staff. She takes care of the kids and just treats them like it's a home here.
That's a real family. I like that atmosphere over there. It sounds lit over there in Miami. Like that.
I was talking about it with my friends the other day. We said Jim Larrañaga might be the only coach across college basketball that nobody dislikes. Everyone loves. Like, people always felt the way about Coach K, Roy Williams, like Calipari. Nobody dislikes Jim Larrañaga.
It's hard to dislike him because he always has good energy. He has a positive attitude all the time. He's like everybody's at this point of his life and his career. He's like everybody's favorite grandpa. So
yeah,
I mean, that's the energy he gives off.
Love that.
Could you like take us, without giving anything away, obviously no tactics or nothing, but could you take us like inside a Jim Larrañaga huddle during a timeout? Because every time things are going wrong and the other team is getting some momentum and some confidence, he calls a timeout and it's like a new team that comes out of there. Can you what about his poise and his leadership makes things so clear and easy?
I think it's what you just said. He's very poised in those situations. He's not rushed or nervous, or he's under control at all times. And I think the players feel that. And it's always the thing about Coach L. He's keeping these guys fresh and their minds fresh by just keeping it light. Obviously, he gives them the game plan before they go out, but he might crack a joke right before they go out. So they all laugh and now they're feeling loose. You know what I mean? So he constantly kind of keeping these guys loose and engaged and ready to play at all times.
Mm-hmm. So you were a player. You played Division I basketball at BU. You did very well. You made it to the tournament. Mm-hmm. You saw a lot of success as a player as well. So now that you're on the other end of it, right, and you can tell these little things that help the team because you're on the other side of it now. When you were a player, do you see a huge difference from a Miami versus a BU?
As far as like recruiting, as far as like why I didn't
just coaching. Just coaching. Yeah, because now you're on the other side of the fence.
Yeah, I think the coaching at like the Patriot League level where BU is just as good at this level. Those guys are just they didn't have their turn yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's very good coaches at that level, high level coaches at that level that end up, you never know, 4 or 5 years from now end up being in the ACC, Big 12. So I think the coaching is there. I think especially in Coach L's case, he's been doing this for so long. So he just seen every situation. Guys like Coach L, guys like Coach K, those type of dudes, they've seen every single situation there ever was, so they kind of are under control at those moments. But those coaches at that level are, in my opinion, are just as good.
Love that.
So speaking of like the conversation about mid-majors, so last year's Final Four was as blue blood as blue bloods get. It was Duke, Carolina, Villanova, and Kansas. This year is as not blue blood as it gets with San Diego State, FAU. What a story those guys are. And then Miami. And of course, UConn's been there, but again, not a blue blood in that conversation, but you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. What does that say about the state of college basketball to you? Like, are we in a crazy period right now between NIL, transfer portal, COVID year, or is this a new thing that we should get used to?
I've seen a lot of people talking about it, but I feel like if you are really a true basketball head and you've been watching college basketball games all year, these are the 4 best teams in college basketball. FAU, I don't know their record right now. It's like 30.
Yeah, they got the most wins in college basketball this year.
So they've been the best team, one of the best teams in college basketball all year. We played FAU last year. We won on an Isaiah Wong buzzer beater. That's a very good basketball team. You know what I mean? Connecticut was number 1 in the beginning of the season. They had a couple losses in Big East, but they were one of the best teams in college basketball. We were one of the best teams in college basketball. San Diego State, same thing. So I don't look at it like that. I think these teams have been consistent throughout the year, and they just found their stride at the right time.
Right, playing well at the right time.
Yeah, well said. I don't disagree. But speaking of good teams, is there a team this season that you guys played that you look back at and you say to yourself, whether it was a win or loss, yeah, that team, they prepared us for this moment right now?
Let me see. I would say a loss. I don't know. I think I'll go back to a couple of the ACC games. The Duke loss at Duke. The Duke loss in the ACC tournament prepared us for it. Who else did we lose to? The Florida State loss was a tough one.
Yeah.
That's the in-state rival. That's always a tough one. And honestly, I think, the Texas game we just played, I mean, that's one of the best teams in the country. So I think us going through that will help us in this next week. You know what I mean? So those are the losses that stand out to me that kind of helped us and galvanized us and keeping us together. Yeah.
What do you see that UConn does well that concerns you, and where do you think you guys have the advantage?
They do a good job on offensive glass. One of their assistants, Tom Moore, was at Quinnipiac. Yeah, and
that's family. Shout out Tom Moore.
Yeah, we used to play against them at BU, and his teams used to be great on offensive glass back then. So I think the offensive rebound, they do a great job. They got Klingon and the big fella crashing the glass, even Andre Jackson crashing the glass, a bunch of guards crashing the glass. So we got to do a good job finishing possessions with a rebound. And I think just our guard play, I mean, they've been carrying us all year, our ability to spread the floor and make plays 1 through 5. All 5 guys on the floor for us can make a play at any moment. So I think that's going to continue to help us throughout the rest of the tournament.
Yeah.
I love that. Talk to me real quick about how you got to University of Miami.
It's crazy, man. And my story been wild. So I was an assistant coach at Roman Catholic High School in Philadelphia. One of my best friends, Matt Griffin, was the head coach. And it was the end of the season. We just lost in the Philadelphia Catholic League Championship. He got a call to take an assistant coaching job at University of Albany. So he was kind of put me in position to take over at Roman. So,
oh wow, what year was this?
This was 2021, the end of 2021.
Okay, we played Roman.
Not the end of 2021, spring of 2021. So the end of that high school season. And I literally got finished talking to our players, the Roman Catholic players, about how Matt was leaving and how I'm gonna go for the job and trying to keep the group together. Literally walk out of the door of that meeting, I get a text from our associate head coach now, Bill Courtney, who I know from back in the day at BU. So I was on staff at BU in 2016, and Bill Courtney was taking a year off. He was just living in Boston. He was great friends with Joe Jones, so he would come by the office all the time. We would actually play noon hoops every day. The basketball staff, like the lacrosse staff, he would come over and play. So I got to know him there. We kept in contact over the years. And he hit me up when I left the meeting with the Roman guys, said, yo, we got a position open. Would you be interested? And I was like, wow. He's like, yo, if you're interested, he's called Coach L. He sent me his number. I got on the phone with Coach L. He was telling me, look, I'm looking for a new assistant. I asked my 2 assistants and the one that just left, give me a list of names who you think I should hire. And he said my name was at the top of everybody's list. So he wanted to.
Ooh, I know that made you feel nice.
It made me feel great because it just a testament of all the work that I put in the genuine relationships that I built over the last 10 plus years. So it made me feel great. And we kind of went through a 2-week interview process. He was calling me. And at the time I was an 8th grade math teacher, and I was coaching at Roman. So he's calling me in the middle of class. I'm putting a math problem on the board for the kids. Yo, answer this.
Hold on.
I got to take this call. So we would go back and forth with that. And 2 weeks later, he offered me the spot.
That's fire.
Yeah.
Damn, that's amazing. Dope. That is dope.
What stood out to me, though, on a personal note on that one, you said 2016 you were at BU. That was my freshman year at BU. So we crossed paths. We were at BU at the same time. Can you just give me like some memories from BU? Like, what was it like leading BU to the tournament? Because every day I was on campus there, I dreamed of how cool it would be if my school made the tournament. Never happened, but I thought that would have been so cool.
Man, I'm getting chills even thinking about it. That was a great time for me as a college athlete, because my dream as a high school player, it wasn't it honestly wasn't to make the NBA. I just wanted to play in the NCAA tournament. And then when I got there,
usually that is it.
Yeah, when I got there, Pat Chambers was the head coach. He recruited me. He's a Philly guy, so we connected right away. I was a starting point guard. John Holland, who played in the league for a while, he was on that 2018 Cavs team with LeBron. We had Daryl Parton, who was a big-time scorer, 20-point scorer, was American East Player of the Year. We had a couple bigs. And that whole year, I tell everybody, that was the hardest year as far as putting in work, basketball work of my life. Pat Chambers had us up every morning at 5 a.m. lifting weights, doing workouts. He just put us through it.
Discipline.
Very disciplined. Had us sitting in the front of class. He had people checking the class to make sure he was in front. Had to show up on time. He went not on time, but 30 minutes early to every workout or lift or whatever it was. He had his discipline. He had our minds on a totally different level. So when it came down to the American East Championship and we down 16 in the second half, in our minds, we all right. And we just got to weather the storm and get through it. Luckily, we had a pro on our team, John Holland, who's from Co-op City in New York. Went on like a 20-0 run by himself, put the team on his back, ended up making a game-winning free throws, and we ended up going to the tournament. Was a 16 seed, played Kansas in the first round. Yeah, they had the Morris twins. They had Thomas Robinson coming off the bench. They had Jeff Withey, who didn't even get in the game. Their guards were Tyshawn Taylor, Josh Selby, Tyrell Reed, Brady Morningstar. So it was a game for like the first 25 minutes, and then they kind of got it rolling. But what I will say is, in that year, it was 2011, we were the closest margin of the 16 versus 1. So I hang my hat on that. We only lost.
There you go. I love it. Shout out BU. I hope one day they can turn into a series program. I'd love to see it. But last one, and then we'll let you get out of here because I know you got a bunch of film to watch. We really appreciate you taking this much time as it is to talk to us. But I saw this on your bio on the Miami website, and I just think this is like, forgive me if I'm just being a basketball nerd and I find this kind of beautiful, but you speak no Spanish. And you were the captain of your team in Cadiz when you played professional ball in Spain, despite not speaking Spanish. To me, that says a lot about not just you as a leader, but about how this game has the power to connect people. Do you see that in that also, or am I just being like a nerd right now?
No, I do, man. Those Spain, that's the time I spent in Spain was so much love, and it was such a great time, despite not making much money. Like I went over there. I paid for myself to go over there, and I wasn't making much money at all. So it was more so for the love of the game to just try to get back into it and put the fact that I was a professional basketball player on my resume. But those dudes I still keep in contact with that was on that team. And a lot of those dudes were young. They were like 18, 19 years old. So I would hang out with them, talk to them. A couple of them spoke English, so they would kind of translate to the ones that didn't really speak English. And they would always come to me and talk to me, and the coach didn't speak any English at all. So, and we had a great connection. He kind of understood, and I feel like basketball, honestly, is a universal language. So he coming up at halftime, he's speaking his Spanish, and I kind of got an idea of what he's saying because I know what's going on in the game, and I know what we need to do. So, I mean, it was a great time in Spain, man.
I love that.
Listen, man, we shouting out everybody. Shout out to you, Coach DJ, because like you said, your journey was a wild one, and you just gave it out. And I feel like, man, to be where you at, you were blessed and highly favored. The road may not have been easy, but it was well worth it. Basketball has paid you back, my good brother, and you are in the Final Four. Crazy. Congratulations to you and to you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all for having me. Your boy, Pete told me to shout him out, so I can't leave here without giving my man Pete a shout out.
Oh, Coach Pete, let's go! Shout out Pete, man. You already know I got like 12, 13 years in with Pete. Shout out Pete. I love Pete. You already.
That's my guy.
Be a friend of a friend, man. Go hit that button.
Thanks, Coach. We appreciate it. Good luck.
Yep. Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all.